Ethan's ship shuddered violently as it entered the planet's atmosphere. The controls beeped urgently and sparks flew across the panels. He gritted his teeth, gripping the console tightly. He had landed on many strange worlds before, but this one, it felt different. The sky shimmered in shades of violet and gold, and the ground below glowed faintly like it held its own light. He managed to stabilize the ship, guiding it down toward a flat plateau surrounded by jagged cliffs. Dust and colored mist swirled around as the landing gear touched the surface. The ship bounced once and then settled. Ethan exhaled slowly, wiping sweat from his brow. He had made it, but the feeling of relief didn't last long. As he looked out the viewport, he noticed something moving near the cliffs, a figure tall and graceful with a glowing aura. He blinked. It was humanoid, yet clearly alien. The figure's movements were precise, elegant, almost like dancing. Ethan's heart raced. He grabbed his equipment pack and stepped outside. The air was surprisingly breathable, cool and crisp. Strange plants with crystal-like petals swayed gently, even though there was no wind. He adjusted his visor to scan for life forms. The readings confirmed it. The figure was not alone. Something about the energy it emitted was different. The figure stopped and turned. That was when Ethan saw her clearly. She was tall, with luminous skin that shimmered like pearls under the strange sunlight. Her hair flowed behind her like liquid silver, and her eyes. Ethan had never seen eyes like that before. They were large, vibrant, and seemed to hold centuries of knowledge and mystery. For a moment, Ethan froze. Every word he had planned to say evaporated from his mind. He had faced dangerous creatures, hostile worlds, and even black holes, but nothing had prepared him for this. The alien regarded him with calm curiosity. She moved closer, her steps silent on the glowing ground. Ethan swallowed hard. He tried to speak, but his throat felt tight. He took a deep breath and in a rush of honesty he could not contain said, "You're so beautiful." "I can't speak." The alien paused, tilting her head slightly. Her eyes widened, not with anger but with surprise. Ethan realized she had never heard such a thing from anyone, especially a human. Her lips curved slightly as if she were amused or perhaps intrigued. "Who are you?" she finally asked, her voice melodic but commanding. Each word seemed to resonate in the air. "I'm Ethan," he said quickly. "I'm a space explorer. I didn't mean to intrude. My ship. I had to land here." The alien's eyes studied him carefully. She was tall, elegant, and carried herself with a confidence that made Ethan feel both small and important at the same time. "You are human," she said, almost as if confirming something he already knew. "Yes," Ethan replied, nodding. "From Earth, I've seen a lot of worlds, but I've never met someone like you." She paused again, examining him in silence. There was something in her gaze that made Ethan uneasy. It wasn't hostility, but a depth he couldn't understand. He felt like a child being studied by a teacher who could see his every thought. Finally, she spoke. "You may follow me," Ethan blinked. "Follow you?" "Yes, you are curious and you are honest. That is rare," she said, her tone still calm yet with a hint of warmth he could not place. "Come, I will show you the palace." Ethan's heart leapt. The palace? On this strange planet? This was beyond anything he could have imagined. He followed her carefully, taking in his surroundings. The landscape was unlike anything on Earth. Trees with translucent leaves stretched toward the sky. Rivers glowed softly with colors that shifted like liquid rainbows. Strange creatures flitted through the air, curious but cautious. As they walked, Ethan realized how different this world was. The ground beneath his feet seemed alive, pulsing faintly. The air carried a faint hum, almost musical. The alien walked with a grace he could not mimic. Each step perfectly balanced, every movement fluid and purposeful. "Why are you helping me?" Ethan asked cautiously. "Most of the planets I've visited, their leaders don't usually welcome humans." The alien paused, looking at him. "I am Liara," she said. "Princess of this world. Few outsiders are allowed here, but you speak without pretense. That is unusual." Ethan swallowed. "I didn't mean to offend, I was just being honest." Liara studied him for a moment longer, then nodded subtly. "Honesty is respected here, though rare. You will stay, but only under observation. Do not stray from the palace grounds." "Yes, ma'am," Ethan said, trying to keep his voice steady. The palace appeared in the distance. It rose from the ground like a crystal spire, reflecting the strange sunlight and shimmering with soft colors. Ethan's mouth went dry. He had seen large space stations, cities on other planets, but nothing like this. The architecture was elegant, almost alive, with curved walls and spires that seemed to reach for the sky. They entered the palace, and Ethan's senses were overwhelmed. The interior was vast, with high ceilings and glowing walls. Light flowed through the space like a river, and intricate patterns moved across the floors and walls. Liara led him to a room filled with strange artifacts, some resembling technology, others art, but all of them unfamiliar. "You may rest here," Liara said, her voice softening slightly. "You will remain under watch. My people will ensure your safety and your conduct." Ethan nodded. "Thank you, Princess Liara." He hesitated, then added, I really didn't expect to meet anyone like you." Liara's eyes softened briefly. "I have not met many humans," she said. "You are different." Ethan felt a spark of courage. "Different in a good way?" he asked, trying to keep his tone light. Liara's lips curved into a faint smile. "Perhaps," she said. "Time will tell." Ethan realized that he had already broken through the first barrier. He had intrigued the princess, not with power or status, but with honesty. The thought both thrilled and terrified him. He wondered what he had gotten himself into. That night, Ethan could not sleep. He lay on a simple cot in the observation room, staring out at the glowing rivers and the strange flora. Liara's words, her gaze, the way she had paused at his compliment, it all replayed in his mind. He had never been drawn to anyone like this, not even in his years of exploring the galaxy. And yet, he also felt something deeper. This was not just admiration for beauty. He felt respect, curiosity, and a strange sense of connection, even with someone so alien. He knew he had to tread carefully, but part of him wished he could understand her, know her better, maybe even make her laugh. The next morning he was awoken by a soft knock on the door. It was Liara herself, dressed in flowing robes that shimmered like the palace walls. "It is time," she said. "We begin your orientation. You must learn our customs, our rules, and our ways. Only then can you remain here safely." Ethan nodded, following her into the palace corridors. Each step revealed more wonders, more mysteries. He felt a thrill he had never felt before, a mix of fear, excitement, and anticipation. As they walked, Liara spoke of her world, its history, its people, and its traditions. Ethan listened, absorbing every detail, realizing how little he truly knew about the universe. And all the while he kept stealing glances at her. He could not help it. She was mesmerizing, not only in appearance but in presence. She commanded attention without demanding it. At one point, Liara paused in a garden filled with glowing flowers. "Here," she said, "is where our leaders often meditate. It is peaceful." Ethan looked around in awe. The flowers pulsed with light and a gentle mist swirled around them. "It's beautiful," he said softly, his eyes finally meeting hers. Liara paused, meeting his gaze. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Ethan's heart pounded. He realized then that the words he had said the first time, the words about her beauty, had changed something. She had reacted. She had paused. She had noticed him in a way no one else had. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt that a single moment, a single honest word, could shift the course of events in ways he could never have imagined. And he wondered, what would happen next? The palace doors closed behind them, and the adventure of discovery, friendship, and something deeper began. The morning sun shimmered through the palace's translucent walls, painting the corridors with soft shades of violet and gold. Ethan followed Liara silently, careful not to trip on the glowing pathways. Every step he took revealed new marvels of this alien world. He had seen strange planets before, but this one seemed almost alive. The walls pulsed faintly, as if the palace itself were aware of their presence. Liara walked ahead, her movements smooth and deliberate. She spoke little, but each word carried weight. Ethan felt the urge to say something, to share a joke or observation, but he remembered her serious gaze from the day before. Instead, he simply watched. The way she moved, the way she observed the palace gardens and artifacts, it was like witnessing poetry in motion. After a few minutes, Liara stopped in front of a large hall. The ceiling stretched high and crystal chandeliers floated mid-air, casting soft light across the room. A group of alien attendants approached them, bowing gracefully. They were tall and slender, with skin that shimmered faintly under the light. "These are our observers," Liara said quietly. Who will help you understand our world. Ethan nodded. I'm ready, he said, trying to sound confident. The observers bowed again and began showing him various instruments, artifacts, and displays. Ethan was amazed by the technology, which combined science and artistry in ways he had never seen. There were devices that could map emotions, create light from thought, and even record memories like a vivid holographic film. He listened carefully, asking questions, and to his surprise, the observers welcomed his curiosity. Liara watched silently from a distance, her eyes never leaving him. Ethan noticed her attention and he felt a strange warmth. There was no hostility, no judgment, only curiosity and perhaps something deeper. Later, Liara led him to a garden unlike any other. The plants glowed in soft pastel colors and the air smelled faintly sweet, almost like a mix of flowers and minerals. Small creatures, translucent and delicate, flitted around the flowers, humming quietly. Many of our visitors fear the gardens, Liara said softly. But humans, you seem unafraid, Ethan smiled. I've seen a lot of strange places, he said. But this is something else. Liara studied him carefully. You do not hide your thoughts easily, she said. Most who come here are careful, cautious, polite. You speak your mind, Ethan shrugged. I guess honesty is just easier for me. I can't pretend, especially when something is remarkable. Liara's eyes widened slightly. Remarkable, she repeated. I see. For a moment they walked in silence, listening to the soft hum of the gardens. Then suddenly a small security drone buzzed into the air near Ethan. It whirred aggressively, lights flashing red. Ethan instinctively raised his hands. Stay back, he shouted. The drone ignored him, spinning toward him with alarming speed. Without thinking, Ethan grabbed a nearby metal rod and swung at it. Sparks flew as the rod connected with the drone and it spun away, still active but temporarily disabled. Liara's eyes widened as she watched him act. She had seen humans before, but most were cautious and hesitant. Ethan had acted boldly, without fear, even in the presence of someone as important as her. You are brave, Liara said softly, stepping closer. Ethan exhaled. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt, he said. Especially not you. Liara studied him, her gaze thoughtful. Humans are interesting, she said. Your courage is unusual. Most beings would have fled or begged for protection. You act. Ethan felt a small surge of pride. I guess it comes naturally, he said. Or maybe I just don't think about it too much. I try to do what's right, even if it's scary. Liara nodded slowly. I see, perhaps this is why I find you intriguing. Ethan blinked, not sure how to respond. Intriguing? He repeated. Yes, she said, her voice calm but firm. You are not like other humans I have observed. You are honest, brave, and unpredictable. Ethan felt his heart skip a beat. Thank you, he said quietly. He realized she meant it, and it was the first time anyone on this planet had acknowledged a human in such a way. Over the next few days, Liara allowed Ethan to explore parts of the palace and the nearby city under careful supervision. He learned about her people's customs, their history, and their technologies. They were advanced in ways humans could barely imagine. Cities powered by energy extracted from stars, transportation that used thought-controlled systems, and knowledge that spanned centuries. Despite their differences, Ethan and Liara found common ground. They shared stories about exploration, about curiosity, and the thrill of discovering the unknown. Ethan spoke about Earth, about humanity's flaws and strengths, and about the simple joys of life that humans often overlooked. Liara listened, fascinated. She had spent her life surrounded by duty and order, but Ethan's perspective was fresh, lively, and unpredictable. He spoke of bravery, friendship, and humor in ways that were completely foreign to her people. One evening, as the twin moons rose in the sky, Ethan and Liara walked along a balcony overlooking the city. The lights of the alien metropolis sparkled like a sea of stars. Ethan felt a strange connection, not just to Liara, but to this world, to the beauty and mystery it held. You seem content here, Liara said softly. I am, Ethan replied honestly. It's amazing, but it's also different. I feel like I'm seeing the universe from a new angle. Liara nodded, her gaze distant. Most who visit here see only what they are allowed to see. You notice more, but you understand. More. Ethan looked at her surprised. I want to understand. Not just your world, but you? Liara paused, her eyes meeting his. For a brief moment she seemed unsure, almost vulnerable. You humans, you speak boldly. You do not hide your thoughts. This is rare here. Ethan smiled gently. I think honesty matters. Words can mean a lot, especially when you truly feel them. She tilted her head, intrigued by his simplicity and sincerity. You are unlike anyone I have met. You make me think differently. Ethan's heart raced. He could feel a subtle shift in their relationship, a bridge forming between human and alien, between curiosity and trust. The next challenge came unexpectedly. A rival faction within Liara's court began questioning her decision to allow a human so close to the palace. They argued that Ethan's presence could influence her, disrupt traditions, and weaken her authority. Liara did not respond immediately. Instead, she observed Ethan closely, seeing how he handled the minor threat without arrogance or fear. He spoke calmly, politely, yet with honesty and integrity. He showed them that humans were not to be underestimated, that bravery and respect were part of their nature. By the end of the confrontation, Liara's advisors were silent, impressed despite themselves. Ethan had earned their respect not through words alone, but through action and honesty, a true human quality that few alien cultures had seen. Later, Liara led Ethan to a quiet observation deck overlooking the palace gardens. The sky glowed with the colors of the setting sun, and the gardens shimmered softly below. You have done well, Liara said. You have shown courage, honesty, and respect. These qualities are rare here. You may remain. Ethan felt a mix of relief and pride. Thank you, Princess Liara. I'm honored. Liara studied him quietly, as if measuring the depth of his words. There is more to learn, she said softly. More than survival, more than courage. You must understand our ways, our thoughts, our arts. Ethan smiled. Then I will learn. I want to understand. Liara's expression softened slightly. Perhaps that is why you are here. Not by accident, but by choice or fate. Ethan looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. He did not fully understand, but he felt a connection growing, one that went beyond worlds, species, or traditions. It was a connection built on honesty, trust, and respect. As the twin moons rose higher in the sky, Ethan knew that his journey was only beginning. He had landed on a strange planet, met a mysterious alien princess, and spoken words that had changed everything. And he realized that for the first time in his life, he was not just exploring a world. He was exploring the possibility of friendship, trust, and something deeper, something that might one day be called understanding. For now, though, the adventure continued. Ethan and Liara would navigate their differences, face new challenges, and learn from one another. And somewhere in the quiet of the palace gardens, under alien moons and glowing skies, a human and a princess began a bond that neither could have anticipated, but both would remember forever. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan slowly began to understand life in the alien palace. Every morning, Liara met him in the main hall, where she taught him about her world, their history, their customs, and the deep traditions that shaped their society. Ethan listened carefully, though sometimes he found their ways confusing. Her people, known as the Valyrians, valued silence and perfection. They rarely laughed, rarely showed emotions, and always spoke with calm precision. They believed emotions clouded judgment, and that logic was the only path to truth. For Ethan, who came from a world where people laughed loudly, argued passionately, and expressed feelings freely, this was strange. He tried to adapt, but sometimes his natural human side showed through. One morning, while learning the proper way to greet a council member, Ethan accidentally mispronounced a formal word. Instead of greeting the elder respectfully, he ended up saying something that sounded like honorable tree. The room went silent. Liara's attendants looked horrified. Ethan realized he must have said something wrong, and his face turned red. Did I say something bad? He asked nervously. Liara's lips twitched slightly, and to everyone's shock, she laughed. A soft musical laugh that filled the hall. The attendants froze, uncertain what to do. Liara rarely laughed. It is fine, she said, still smiling faintly. You called the elder a tree, that is new. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed but relieved. Well, back on Earth, trees are important. So I guess it's still a compliment? Liara smiled again, something no one in the palace had seen her do twice in one day. Perhaps you are right, human. Even mistakes can be meaningful. From that day, something changed between them. Liara began to see Ethan differently, not just as a visitor, but as someone who brought warmth and light into her cold, orderly world. She found herself looking forward to their lessons, to his strange jokes, and to the way he saw beauty in the smallest things. Yet not everyone was pleased. The palace advisors whispered behind closed doors. They saw the change in their princess, the smiles, the laughter, the curiosity. To them, it was dangerous. Emotion led to weakness, and weakness led to ruin. One night, after a long day of lessons, Ethan stood on the palace balcony gazing at the stars. The twin moons glowed softly and the city sparkled below. He missed Earth, the sounds of rain, the smell of trees, the laughter of friends, but at the same time he felt drawn to this place. He heard soft footsteps behind him. "You are thinking of your home," Liara said gently. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, I guess I am. But this world, it's growing on me. It's strange but beautiful." Liara moved beside him, her gaze on the stars. "You speak of beauty often," she said. "To us, beauty is found in balance, in structure. But you see it in everything, even in mistakes." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe that's what makes humans different. We don't always need perfection. Sometimes we find meaning in imperfection." Liara was silent for a moment, thinking. "Your words are simple, yet they carry depth," she said softly. "You see the world through emotion, that is. Not how we were taught." Ethan turned toward her. "Maybe emotions aren't a weakness, Liara. Maybe they're what make us strong." Her eyes met his. "Perhaps," she said quietly. "But not everyone here would agree." The next day, the royal council summoned Liara. The large chamber was filled with high-ranking Valyrians, all in formal attire. Ethan stood at a distance, unsure if he should even be there. One elder, tall and stern, spoke first. "Princess Liara," he began, "this human's presence has caused change among us. You have laughed in council, you have delayed rituals, and your judgment appears clouded." Liara's expression remained calm, but Ethan could sense her tension. "The human is a guest," she said firmly. "He brings new knowledge and new understanding. That is not weakness, it is growth." "Growth?" the elder scoffed. "Or corruption. His ways are reckless. His words are filled with emotion. We are not like them, princess. We are Valyrians. We do not allow our hearts to rule our minds." Ethan stepped forward before Liara could respond. "With respect, sir," he said, "on Earth emotions aren't weakness. They're what drive us to protect, to create, to explore. You may not understand it, but that's what makes us human." The council members murmured among themselves, shocked that a human dared to speak. Liara turned slightly toward him, her eyes soft but firm. "You speak boldly, Ethan," she said quietly, "but here such words are dangerous." "I know," Ethan said, "but sometimes the truth is worth saying, even if it's risky." The council meeting ended without a final decision, but the tension was clear. Some supported Liara's open-mindedness. Others saw it as a threat. Later that evening, Liara and Ethan sat in the quiet of the palace garden. The air was cool, and the glowing flowers reflected in the water pools. "You should not have spoken like that," Liara said, though her tone was not angry, only worried. "You risked offending them." "I know," Ethan replied, "but I couldn't stand there and let them think emotions are something bad. You have a beautiful culture, Liara, but maybe it could use a little heart." Liara sighed softly. "A little heart," she repeated, as if testing the phrase. "You speak as though the universe can change so easily." Ethan smiled. "Maybe it can. Sometimes all it takes is one person brave enough to see things differently." For a long moment they sat in silence, listening to the soft hum of the garden. Liara's expression softened. "You make me question things I never questioned before," she admitted. "You make me feel different." Ethan looked at her. "Different good or different bad?" Liara hesitated, then said softly, "Different." "Confusing," Ethan chuckled. "Confusing's not so bad. It means you're thinking about something that matters." Liara turned to him, her eyes reflecting the glowing garden lights. "You believe so strongly in your ways," she said. "In honesty and emotion and heart. Perhaps that is what makes your kind so resilient." "We're not perfect," Ethan said honestly. "Humans make mistakes all the time. But we also learn, forgive, and keep going. Maybe that's our strength." Liara smiled faintly, her expression thoughtful. "Perhaps," she said again. "You remind me that strength does not always come from control. Sometimes it comes from courage. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm. A faint tremor shook the ground beneath them. Liara stood quickly, her eyes narrowing. What was that? An attendant rushed into the garden. Princess! A storm. Massive energy surge near the northern tower. The shield is failing. Without thinking, Ethan ran toward the tower. Come on, he called. Ethan, wait. Liara shouted, but he was already sprinting. The tower's energy shield flickered wildly as lightning-like energy bolts struck it. Ethan grabbed a fallen tool from the ground, trying to stabilize a control panel. Liara arrived seconds later, using her own device to reroute power. Sparks flew around them. Ethan, this is dangerous, she shouted. Then let's fix it fast, he yelled back, tightening a connector. The power grid stabilized after several tense moments and the storm began to calm. Ethan fell to his knees, breathing hard. Liara stood beside him, her robe slightly burned at the edges. You risked your life, she said softly. So did you, he replied with a tired smile. Guess we make a good team. Liara looked at him for a long time. There was something new in her gaze, respect, admiration, and something even deeper. Perhaps, she said. Perhaps we do. That night, as the storm faded and peace returned, Liara stood on her balcony watching the stars. She thought of Ethan, the strange human who had spoken with honesty, acted with courage, and shown her a world beyond logic and order. For the first time, Liara felt something she could not name, a mix of warmth, curiosity, and hope. She realized that her people's way, though wise, was not the only way. The human had taught her that imperfection could also be beautiful, and that emotions, though unpredictable, could lead to strength. And somewhere in the garden below, Ethan looked up at the same stars, wondering if he had changed her world even a little. The night sky of Aurelion was filled with pale silver light, shining across the tall glass towers of the alien capital. Ethan stood on the palace balcony, looking at the stars that reminded him of Earth. He had spent weeks on this planet now, fixing his ship, learning about Liara's world, and understanding how different their lives were. Yet deep down, he knew that something more had changed, something inside him and inside the princess too. Liara had grown quieter lately. Her court was full of arguments about Ethan's presence. Some of her advisors warned her that humans could not be trusted, that they were too emotional and unpredictable. Others whispered that she had grown too close to him. Liara ignored them most of the time, but Ethan could see the tiredness in her eyes. The weight of leadership was heavy on her, and he wished he could help somehow. One evening, while Ethan worked on his ship outside the city, a sudden tremor shook the ground. He looked up and saw cracks forming in the distant horizon. The sky shimmered with strange colors as the ground rumbled. Within seconds, alarms began to echo from the city towers. Something terrible was happening beneath Aurelion's surface. Ethan ran back toward the city as explosions of dust rose in the distance. The palace walls trembled. Liara's guards rushed to protect her, but she pushed through them, running toward the control center. She looked up to see Ethan fighting through the falling debris to reach her. What's happening? He shouted. The energy core beneath the capital is unstable, she said quickly. If it breaks, the entire city will fall into the valley. Without another word, Ethan grabbed a communication link and began to analyze the readings. The data was full of strange alien symbols, but his engineering background helped him understand the basics. The system that powered the city's shields had overheated. The automatic control was failing. Liara looked at him, her expression torn between command and worry. You shouldn't be here, human. This is not your fight. Ethan looked her straight in the eyes. You think I can just walk away while people are in danger? That's not what humans do. Before she could respond, another tremor rocked the palace. A giant pillar cracked and began to fall toward them. Ethan pushed Liara out of the way just as it crashed into the floor, filling the air with smoke and sparks. Coughing, Liara stood, realizing what he had done. You could have been crushed, he smiled weakly. Then I'd be the first human statue in your palace. Despite the chaos, Liara's lips curved into a faint smile. Then she turned serious again. Come with me. We can stabilize the core from the main reactor chamber. They ran through the trembling corridors, escorted by guards. The palace's glowing halls flickered as energy lines sparked. When they reached the reactor, the heat was intense and the energy field pulsed dangerously. Ethan studied the controls. Your systems are too automated. You need manual rerouting to spread the load. Liara nodded. Can you do it? Maybe. But someone needs to hold this relay open while I realign the conduits. Liara stepped forward. I'll do it, he shook his head. No, if the energy discharges, it'll be too dangerous. She met his eyes firmly. This is my city, my people. I cannot stand aside while others risk their lives for me. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, but you do exactly what I say. Together they worked quickly, Ethan crawling inside the control pit, using his tools to redirect the energy flow, and Liara holding the manual override lever. The entire chamber roared with light. Every move had to be perfect or the city would fall. Sweat ran down Ethan's face as he yelled over the noise. Now! Release it halfway! Liara pulled the lever, sparks flew, and a blinding flash filled the room. The ground shook one final time, then fell silent. The hum of the reactor steadied. The danger was over. Ethan climbed out slowly, his hands trembling from exhaustion. Liara stood nearby, her hair slightly singed, her silver armor glowing faintly in the dim light. For a long moment, they just looked at each other in the quiet aftermath. You did it, she said softly. We did it, he corrected her with a tired smile. When they returned to the upper levels, the city was already calming. The towers still glowed, the lights returning one by one. People looked up at the palace, cheering. They didn't know the full story, but they knew their leader had saved them again. That night, Liara called a small gathering of her advisors and citizens. She stood before them, calm and radiant, with Ethan beside her. Today, she said, her voice strong and clear, a human risked his life for our people. He acted not as an outsider, but as one of us. He reminded me and all of us that courage is not defined by species but by heart. Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest as her words echoed through the hall. For the first time, the aliens around him looked not at him with suspicion but with respect. After the gathering, Liara walked with him through the quiet garden where they had first met. The air was cool and full of the soft scent of glowing flowers. I was taught that emotions make leaders weak, Liara said, that showing care or admiration could cloud judgment. But you, Ethan, have shown me that emotion can be strength. It can give meaning to reason. Ethan smiled gently. Where I come from, we believe that truth comes from both heart and mind. One without the other can lead us astray. They stopped near the fountain where the moonlight danced on the water. Liara turned toward him. When you first saw me, you said something that surprised me. Ethan blinked, embarrassed. You mean when I said you were beautiful? Yes, she said softly. No one on this world would dare say such words to me. They see the crown, the duty, not the person. But you spoke without fear, with honesty. He shrugged lightly. I just said what I saw. For a moment, silence hung between them, gentle and peaceful. Liara's eyes softened. Humans are strange creatures, Ethan. You fight for strangers, you speak your hearts, and somehow, you change worlds without even trying. He chuckled. We just try to do what feels right. Liara smiled. Then perhaps that is why your kind will always surprise the stars. As dawn began to rise over Aurelion, Ethan knew his ship was finally ready. It was time for him to return to his people. Liara walked with him to the landing field, her guards keeping a respectful distance. Will you come back one day? She asked quietly. Ethan looked at the sky. If the stars allow it, she nodded. Then I will wait for that day. He turned to her one last time. You know, Princess, I meant every word I said that first day. You're not just beautiful, you're extraordinary. For the first time since he met her, Liara was speechless. Her silver eyes shimmered with emotion, but she said nothing. Instead, she placed her hand gently over her heart, the gesture of deepest respect in her culture. Ethan smiled, then stepped into his ship. As it lifted off, Liara watched the trail of light disappear into the sky. She felt a quiet ache inside her, a strange mix of pride and longing. High above, Ethan looked down at the glowing city fading beneath the clouds. He whispered softly, Goodbye. Princess, in that moment 2 worlds so different, yet connected, shared something eternal. Respect, understanding, and the quiet promise that one day, their paths might cross again. And somewhere, deep within the heart of Aurelion, the alien princess remembered the words of the human who once told her he couldn't speak, because beauty, courage, and kindness had already spoken louder than words ever could.